Chosen one, stop whatever you are doing right now. I need you to hear this before another moment passes, because what I am about to share with you has not been released in over 400 years, not a generation, not a decade. 4 centuries of heaven holding something back, waiting, building, preparing, and then, at this exact hour of your life, releasing it all at once. And the subject of that release is not a movement. It is not a nation. It is not even a calling in the broad sense of the word. It is you, specifically, individually, personally, you. There is a reason you felt something the moment this began. A pull, a recognition, a quiet but unmistakable knowing that something about this moment is different from every other moment you have scrolled past today. That was not coincidence. That was not the algorithm. That was the beginning of a signal that heaven has been preparing to deliver to you for longer than you have been alive. A red alert has been issued from the courts of heaven, not a gentle nudge, not a whisper meant to be ignored. A full, sovereign, heaven-wide alert that interrupted the standard order of the unseen realm and pointed its entire force at one single address. Yours, stay with me, because before this message ends, you are going to understand exactly why heaven shattered 400 years of silence, and it is going to change how you see every unanswered prayer, every silent night, and every moment you thought you were forgotten. Everything you have been carrying is about to make sense. Before your mind could process what I just said, something in your body responded. Maybe your chest tightened. Maybe your breathing shifted. Maybe something behind your eyes went very still in a way that does not happen often. That was not a reaction to my words. That was your spirit recognizing a frequency it has been waiting to receive for a very long time. Because here is what no one tells you about the seasons that feel the most silent. Your body knows things your mind has not caught up to yet. And right now, your body has been carrying information that your circumstances could not explain and your prayers could not fully express. You felt it when you started waking at 3 in the morning, lying in the dark with your eyes wide open, as if something invisible and enormous was pulling you out of sleep and whispering one word, pay attention. Even though the house was completely still, even though nothing had changed, something had shifted, and every part of you could feel it. You felt it when tears came from nowhere, rising up from a place so deep inside you that you could not trace their origin, only that they carried a weight far heavier than anything in your ordinary day could explain. You felt it when your dreams changed, becoming sharper, more vivid, more saturated with meaning than your waking life, and you woke reaching for something that was not physically there but felt more real than the bed beneath you. You felt it when your tolerance shifted almost overnight. Conversations that used to feel comfortable suddenly became unbearable. Places that once felt like home began to suffocate you, as if your spirit was quietly outgrowing every container your old life had built around it. And you felt it in your chest, that low, constant tension that no amount of rest could release. That shallow breathing that had no medical cause. That sense that your entire body was trying to calibrate to a frequency it had never been asked to hold before. I need to say this clearly, because too many chosen ones have accepted a false diagnosis of what they are experiencing. That is not anxiety. That is not depression. That is not burnout from ordinary life. That is your body receiving a red alert from the courts of heaven. A signal so powerful that your physical form is struggling to contain it. And if even one of those signs made you stop breathing for half a second because it felt like I was reading your private life, I want you to type the words "I hear it" in the comments right now. Not for engagement, for you. Let that be the first time you acknowledged out loud what your spirit has already known. Most people believe heaven speaks in one way: a quiet peace during prayer, a gentle sense of calm when you choose rightly, a door that opens when you least expect it. Those things are real. That is heaven communicating at its most gentle frequency. Call it the first level, the whisper. It is how heaven reaches the majority of souls most of the time. And it is beautiful. But there is a second level. This is where the signals become louder and more difficult to ignore. Synchronicities that are too precise to be random. Numbers that follow you everywhere. A stranger who says the exact words you needed to hear, as if they had read your private journal. Dreams that carry information you could not have known while you were awake. The second level is heaven increasing the volume, because something important is approaching your life. But above that, there is a level so rare that most spiritual traditions have almost no language for it, because it almost never activates. The third level, the red alert, what ancient seers called a sovereign disruption. This is not a sign on the side of the road. This is a moment when the courts of heaven override every normal channel of communication and send a direct, urgent, unmistakable signal to one specific soul. A signal so concentrated it cannot be explained away, cannot be filed under coincidence, and cannot be misunderstood once you understand what it means. And this level has not activated in centuries, until now. Until you. And I need you to understand something that will reframe every silent night you have endured. You are not someone who missed the whisper. You received it. You noticed the signs. You had the dreams. But what heaven is doing right now is beyond those channels, because what is coming into your life is too large to be carried by a whisper. The silence you experienced was never abandonment. It was concentration. Imagine a surgeon entering the most critical moment of an operation. The entire room goes quiet, not because no one cares, because what is happening requires absolute precision. That is what heaven has been doing while you thought it forgot your name. It was not ignoring your prayers. It was focusing with an intensity that only activates when the stakes are generational. To understand why this alert was sent after 400 years of silence, we have to go to a word buried in the original Hebrew language. A word so specific, so rare, and so powerful that when you understand what it actually means, every season of unanswered prayer, every night of wondering if you are even being heard, will snap into focus like a picture you have been staring at for years that finally reveals itself. The word is tasak in the ancient scriptures. There are many words for prayer, gentle words, quiet words, words that describe a soul whispering to its creator in the stillness of night. But tasak is none of those things. Tasak is not a polite request. It is not a soft prayer offered with folded hands and lowered eyes. Tasak is a sound that erupts from the deepest chamber of a human soul when that soul has reached the absolute end of its own strength, and the force of that sound shakes the very foundations of the heavenly courts. When Scripture uses this word, it describes a cry so raw, so visceral, so saturated with authentic desperation and unbroken faith at the same time, that heaven is not merely invited to respond. Heaven is compelled. TSA is the only frequency that triggers a red alert. And here is what changes everything. The reason heaven was silent for centuries is not that heaven stopped caring. It is that TSAQ, the kind of cry that activates the highest level of heaven's response, is extraordinarily rare. Most prayers, even deeply sincere ones, even painful ones, operate within the normal channels. They are heard, they are answered, and they move through the standard order. But your cry was different. Your cry was not just pain. Your cry carried something underneath the pain that heaven had been listening for across generations. It carried faithfulness without evidence. It carried worship without reward. It carried a stubborn, inexplicable, almost unreasonable refusal to stop believing, even when everything in your visible world told you to give up. That frequency, that specific combination of suffering and unbroken faith, is tasak. And when it reached the courts of heaven, the silence broke. Not gently, not gradually. It broke like a dam that had been holding back 4 centuries of concentrated divine intention. Your cry was not ignored. Your cry was the key that turned the lock. You are not the first soul to trigger a red alert. Let me show you what this looks like in history. Because you are standing in a moment that carries a familiar shape. Centuries ago, a man named Moses was living in exile. He had been a prince, then a fugitive. And by the time we find him in the wilderness, he was a shepherd with no platform, no audience, and no evidence whatsoever that heaven still remembered his name. 40 years of silence, 40 years of nothing. And then, in the middle of an ordinary day doing ordinary work, heaven did not whisper to Moses. Heaven burned. A bush ignited with a fire that refused to consume it, and from that fire came a voice that called his name twice. Moses. Moses. That was not a level 1 whisper. That was a red alert. A sovereign disruption aimed at one man who had stopped expecting anything from heaven and noticed something important. Moses did not climb the mountain searching for that fire. The fire was placed directly in his path. The thermal found the eagle, not the other way around. And then there was a young woman named Esther. When we meet her in the ancient text, she is hiding, living in exile, concealing her identity. No indication whatsoever that heaven had any significant plans for her. She was not a warrior. She was not a priest. She was not powerful by the standards of her time. But one day, a crisis arrived that threatened to destroy everything she loved, and a single phrase was spoken to her that changed the course of history. For such a time as this, those words were Esther's red alert. Not because she was the strongest, not because she was the most qualified, because she was positioned. Her specific combination of pain, preparation, and hidden faithfulness placed her at the exact intersection where heaven needed a human vessel. You are at that intersection right now, and I need you to receive something before we go further. Because this message, this moment, this frequency, reaching you through this screen, at this exact point in your life, none of it is an accident. And the someone who needs to know that most right now is you. There are people out there tonight who are in the same quiet place you were in a season ago. People lying awake at 3 in the morning with no language for what they feel. People who have stopped finishing their prayers because they ran out of words. And the only way this message finds them is if it keeps traveling. If something in these words has already touched something real inside you, if it has already shifted even 1 degree of the way you see your own silence, consider this. The link in the description and pinned comment is a simple way to keep this kind of message moving. Think of it as leaving a door open for someone you will never meet. Someone whose name you do not know, but whose night looks a lot like yours did. Every bit of support, however small, is just one more soul who finds their way to a word they needed. No pressure, only if something in you says yes. The red alert that heaven sent contains 3 specific things. The first is a recalibration of divine provision. Everything that was supposed to reach you but was delayed. Everything that was rerouted, everything that was held back because the timing was not right. All of it has been released in this season. The second is a removal of spiritual blockages. Chains that were invisible to you but very real in the unseen realm are being cut right now. in this season. Without your effort. And the third, the most important of all, is an identity reveal. Heaven is about to show you who you actually are in its records. And that identity does not match the story you have been telling yourself. But here is the problem. Between you and those three things stands a wall. And that wall was not built by your circumstances. It was not built by the people who hurt you. It was not built by any force in the unseen realm. You built it. Out of the most understandable material in the world, you built it out of doubt. A belief so deep and so quiet that you might not even recognize it as a belief. It sounds like this. I am not important enough for heaven to move like this for me. I know that voice. I know it because it is the most common lie carried by the most powerful souls on this planet. The people heaven sends red alerts for are never the ones who feel ready. They are the ones sitting in the back of the room, hoping no one calls their name, convinced the miracle must be for someone holier, someone stronger, someone who prayed more consistently, someone who did not fail as many times as they did. And I need to speak directly to that voice inside you right now. That doubt sitting in your chest is not your fault. It was planted there by every rejection that came before this moment. It was watered by every disappointment. It was reinforced every single time you gave your absolute best, and it was not enough. So of course you doubt. How could you not hesitate after everything you have walked through? But listen to me carefully. Doubt is not disqualification. Doubt is the final checkpoint. It is the last gate before activation. Heaven does not send red alerts to people who feel confident and ready. It sends them to people who feel unworthy, because those are the exact souls who will steward what they receive with the kind of humility that does not waste it. You are allowed to believe this message is for you. Not for the person next to you, not for someone holier for you. You are allowed to receive something you did not earn. That is what grace looks like when it arrives at red alert speed. Your tears were heavy enough. Your faithfulness was consistent enough. Your cry was loud enough. You are allowed to stop carrying the weight of proving that you deserve this. Heaven already decided. Everything I have shared so far has been building toward one single revelation. The truth about who you actually are. Not who the world told you that you were, not who your failures suggested you might be, who heaven has always known you to be. You are a seer, the one who perceives what others walk right past. You feel the shift in a room before anyone speaks. You sense the lie underneath the smile. You know without evidence when something is wrong and when something is about to change. That gift has confused you your entire life because no one ever told you what it was or why you carried it with such intensity. You are a light bearer, not a person who avoids darkness, but a person who walks into it and changes its composition simply by being present. People feel different when you are in the room. Most of them cannot explain why, but you have noticed it your entire life, even when you try to minimize yourself. You are a voice. The one who speaks what an entire generation feels but cannot articulate. Words move through you with a weight that does not come from education or intelligence. It comes from a frequency that heaven loaded into your spirit before you took your first breath. You are a bridge. The one who connects worlds that were never supposed to remain separated. You have always felt caught between two realities, never fully belonging to either one. That is not a flaw. That is your assignment. You were never meant to live in just one world. You were meant to stand in the gap and pull them together, and you are a pioneer. The one who goes first into territory that has no map. You have always been drawn to paths that make no sense to the people around you. And that is because your assignment requires you to walk where no one has walked before, so that others can follow your footsteps later. That is who heaven sees when it looks at you. That is the name written in the record. And that is why a red alert was necessary, because a soul carrying that much assignment cannot be allowed to sit in doubt for one more day. If something inside you just broke open, if the identity I just described felt like hearing your real name spoken for the first time, I want you to know this is real. This is not something you constructed in this moment. Heaven built this into you long before the world had a chance to bury it. And I hear the Father speaking something over you right now. I did not bring you through the fire to leave you standing at the edge of what I promised. You are not a spectator in what I am building. You are the one I prepared the red alert for. I watched you carry what would have broken others. I watched you stay when leaving was easier. I watched you worship in the dark when no one was clapping. And I am telling you now, step forward. What is on the other side of that step has been waiting for you longer than you have been waiting for it. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment, because I know there are people watching or listening to this right now who are in the middle of one of the hardest seasons of their lives. And they found this not because they were searching for spiritual content. They found it because something in them is desperately looking for a sign that they have not been forgotten. This channel exists for those people, the ones in the quiet, the ones who need to hear that their silence was preparation, not abandonment. If something in you already knows someone like that, if a face just came to mind, know this. Sharing this message costs you nothing, but it might be the exact word they needed today. And if you feel led to go one step further and help keep this kind of content alive for the next person who needs it, there is a simple link in the description and the pinned comment below. Not a demand, not an obligation, just an open door. If it resonates, walk through it. You would not be supporting a channel. You would be making sure a stranger you will never meet gets to hear what you just heard. Now let me give you something practical, a framework for the season ahead that I call the signal recognition protocol. The first step is what I call the stillness check. Starting today, before you react to anything, before you make any decision, before you respond to any emotion that rises in you, I need you to pause for 7 seconds and ask one question. Is this signal or is this noise? Heaven's red alert produces clarity. It produces a settled knowing in your gut that does not scream and does not beg for your attention. It simply sits there, quiet and immovable, like a mountain that was there before you noticed it. Noise, on the other hand, produces urgency mixed with confusion. It pressures you. It rushes you. It makes you feel like you have to act right now or lose everything. From today forward, when something rises in your spirit, run it through the stillness check. If it brings peace underneath the intensity, that is signal. Follow it. If it brings chaos wrapped in spiritual language, that is noise. Release it. The second step is what I call the response posture. When heaven sends a red alert, the worst thing you can do is respond with panic. Panic is noise disguised as action. The response posture is a daily practice built on 3 pillars. The first pillar is 7 minutes of intentional silence every morning. Not prayer, not meditation, just silence. Giving your spirit room to process what is being downloaded into you. The second pillar is documentation. For the next 7 days, write down every sign, every synchronicity, every unusual event, no matter how small it seems. Patterns become visible on paper that remain invisible in your head. The third pillar is obedience to the first clear instruction. Heaven does not give you the full map. It gives you the next step. When you see it, take it without waiting for the full picture. And the third step is what I call the activation breath. This is not a breathing exercise in the traditional sense. This is a spiritual reset you can use anywhere, anytime, in under 60 seconds, breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts. As you inhale, imagine you are pulling in the frequency of the red alert itself, that golden signal heaven released specifically for you. Hold it for 4 counts. Then exhale slowly for 4 counts. And as you release the air, let every doubt, every old identity, every fear that tried to block the signal leave your body with that breath. Do this 3 times whenever you feel the noise closing in. It will bring you back to signal every single time. That is the complete signal recognition protocol. The stillness check, the response posture, and the activation breath. You now carry a framework that most people will never have access to. Use it in this new season, and now, chosen one, we arrive at the place this message was always building toward. What I am about to speak over your life is not information. It is not a teaching. It is an activation. Something I believe will be sealed into the atmosphere around your life long after this message ends. In your mind, wherever you are right now, I want you to stand. Not physically, in your spirit. Stand up inside yourself. Imagine you are in a vast open field. The sky above you is not ordinary sky. It is ancient. It is alive. And as you look up, a single beam of concentrated golden light breaks through the clouds and descends directly toward you. It does not scatter. It does not spread across the field. It lands on your chest. Feel the warmth of it. Feel it pressing into you, not with weight, but with presence. That is not imagination. That is the red alert making contact. That is heaven's signal arriving not as information, but as impartation settling into your bones, recalibrating your frequency from the inside out. Notice how your breathing just changed. That shift is real. Let it settle. I begin with gratitude, the release, the activation, and the identity that was always yours. Heaven sees every prayer that felt unanswered, every smile worn over a fracturing heart, every act of faithfulness no one witnessed. Those invisible moments are exactly what triggered the red alert. Heaven does not reward performance. It responds to persistence when no one is clapping. Now it is time to release every belief that you were forgotten, every story that you were not enough, every chain of doubt, comparison, and false identity broken now. And now the activation is spoken over you, the seer, the light bearer, the voice, the bridge, the pioneer. Every connection, every open door, every divine relationship stored with your name on it, released now. What heaven has activated, nothing on earth can undo. Declare it and mean it. I am the one heaven sent the red alert for. I am not late. I am not forgotten. I am exactly on time. Sit in that truth for a moment. Let it settle the way rain soaks into ground that has been dry too long. The person who pressed play and the person sitting here now are not the same. Something was deposited. Something was sealed. If this reached you, let your like be your amen. Share it with someone who ran out of words. Subscribe so the next message finds you when you need it most. And if you feel led to help this reach one more person who is one word away from choosing to believe again, the link below is simply an open door. No pressure, only gratitude. You are airborne now, not by effort, by what was sent from above. Soar.